He called himself the Zodiac, a name chosen to terrify, to confuse, and to dominate headlines for decades. With cryptic letters, chilling ciphers, and brutal murders, he taunted the police, the press, and the public. To this day, he has never been caught. This is the true story of America's most elusive serial killer, the Zodiac. The late 1960s were a turbulent time in America. Protests, war, and cultural revolution defined the era. But amid the chaos, a far more sinister figure was taking shape in Northern California. Between 1968 and 1969, a series of brutal killings would mark the beginning of one of the most infamous crime sprees in US history. The Zodiac Killer's story begins in Benicia, California, a quiet town not far from San Francisco. It was here, on December 20th, 1968, that high school sweethearts Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were shot and killed while parked on a secluded lover's lane. There was no robbery, no sexual assault, just cold-blooded murder. Betty Lou was found dead outside the car. David, barely alive, slumped near the front door. They had been ambushed. The killer used a .22 caliber weapon. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses, and no solid leads. The town was stunned. But this was only the beginning. On July 4th, 1969, in Vallejo, just a few miles from the first attack, another couple was targeted. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were parked at Blue Rock Springs Park when a man approached their car and opened fire with a 9mm Luger. Darlene died. Michael survived. Within an hour, a call was made to the Vallejo Police Department. The voice on the other end admitted to the murders, referencing both the July attack and the one from December. The killer had returned, and he wanted everyone to know. Just 1 month later, the first letters arrived. 3 newspapers received near-identical letters, each beginning with the same ominous words, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac speaking." Enclosed in each letter was 1/3 of a 408-symbol cipher. The killer demanded they be published or more would die. The ciphers were a twisted puzzle. In one, later cracked by a high school teacher and his wife, the killer wrote, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all." He signed his letters with a strange symbol, a circle with a cross through it, like a gun's crosshair. And with that, he named himself Zodiac. On September 27th, 1969, Zodiac struck again at Lake Berryessa. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing by the lake when a hooded man in a black executioner's outfit tied them up and stabbed them multiple times. Brian survived. Cecilia did not. This time, the killer left a calling card. He wrote a message on Brian's car door, listing the dates of his previous crimes and signing it with the Zodiac symbol. Then came San Francisco. On October 11th, 1969, cab driver Paul Stein was shot in the head in the upscale neighborhood of Presidio Heights. This murder broke the pattern: urban setting, a single male victim, and a bold escape. Zodiac even mailed a piece of Stein's bloodied shirt to the press to prove his kill. Despite countless tips and an extensive manhunt, Zodiac eluded capture. Police departments across Northern California struggled to cooperate. Hundreds of suspects were questioned, but one name stood out: Arthur Lee Allen. Allen was a convicted child molester with disturbing habits. He owned Zodiac brand watches and lived near many of the crime scenes. Yet, despite years of surveillance, polygraphs, and search warrants, no definitive evidence linked him to the murders. DNA from the letters didn't match his. He died in 1992, still officially just a suspect. The Zodiac claimed 37 victims in his letters, but only 5 have been definitively confirmed. His ciphers, some still unsolved, continue to baffle experts. In 2020, a group of cryptographers finally cracked his 340-character cipher, revealing another eerie message. Yet the question remains, who was he? How did he disappear so completely? And why did the murders suddenly stop? Was he imprisoned, deceased, or simply the watching from the shadows? The Zodiac Killer remains one of America's darkest mysteries, a ghost of the past who changed how we see crime, fear, and unsolved cases. Subscribe to America's Biggest Crimes for more chilling investigations like this one. And remember, the truth is often stranger and scarier than fiction.